Plugin of the week is the UA-Softube Chandler Limited Zener Limiter. So this is a universal audio platform, and this is a new plugin that emulates the Chandler Limited, Zener Limiter. And Chandler has got some amazing products. You probably already are aware of the Curve Bender, which is also an emulation on the UA platform, which is quite cool. This is of the Zener Limiter. So the Zener Limiter actually goes back to the 1960s and some of the solid state technology that came out from Abbey Road Studios. So it's really an emulation of the RS-168 Zener Limiter. So and let me kind of explain this, because this is sort of an emulation of a sort of reissue of something that existed back in the 60s. So the Chandler Limited version, the actual hardware, is a modernized version that has all of the original settings, and you could see them kind of highlighted in white. So wherever you see like white settings, like the compressed limit setting, or any of the attack and release settings that they have that are highlighted in white, those were the original settings that were on the unit itself. And then they added additional options that kind of go along with this, but they use that same Zener diode technology that was used for that, and also to some degree for the TG12345 console, which had compressors in every channel, very much ahead of its time. So what they've done here is they've emulated the Chandler Limited version of all this, which is really amazing because they make super high-end, mastering grade, Class A component type of stuff. As if you've seen the TG12345 EQ, the Curve Bender, then you understand what I'm talking about with that. And this is really a transition from tube technology into solid state technology, and this is sort of the era that it's kind of capturing. So what you have here, you have a gain reduction meter, you have two input gain sources. There's a high and a low gain. So what this does is it gives you a different impedance setting. So on the high setting, it is 300 ohm, and then it's 1200 ohm on the low end. And this is meant to emulate the variations of, I want to say this and I could be wrong, the 168, the RS-168, and the TG12345, which had different impedance settings. So it allowed you to set it up like that. So you have those two settings, and it does affect the gain. So you're going to have to kind of play with some stuff. You have an input-output gain. Because it's a fixed threshold style compressor limiter, then what you're dealing with is moving the audio gain up or down relative to get it to the right amount of gain reduction that you're looking for. You have the original compressor, which is like a 2-to-1 compressor, and a limiter. And then they have a compressor 2 setting, which gives you like the compressor 1 characteristics, but with a faster release, which is a little bit more like the limit setting. So the limit release is meant to be a quicker release setting that's meant to emulate more like the Fairchild 660 release timing. And then you have a sidechain filter here, which is placed in. This is totally an additional thing from the original EMI hardware, but this allows you to filter the sidechain signal. So this way, if a kick drum or a bass or something is over triggering gain reduction, you can kind of filter some of that stuff out. So it's a high pass filter, and that's basically the way that it works on that end. You have an attack and release setting. Now, they don't give you any kind of numbers, although the number 2 here is the original tack time that was part of the original RS-168. And then the release timings are here in parentheses 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So you have the 6 different release timings, and you can kind of work within those. So it kind of by default comes up with that. You can also operate, if you flip this to THD, it'll bypass the limiting unit, so it's no longer going to be a limiter, but you're just running through the components, and this allows you to take on some of the harmonic distortion characteristics and kind of bring those in without actually doing any compression or limiting. So we'll leave it in limit mode and kind of maybe A/B that. You could also, which is also very unique, you can do mid-side processing with this. So if you switch it to mid-side, then you'll have mid on the left and side processing on the right. And then you can unlink the channels. Sometimes it's best, to kind of work with this do your basic settings link together if you're doing mid-side, and then separate them out and then adjust thresholds and all that sort of stuff independently, because you may find most of the power energy typically in the vast majority of mixes in the center images, not in the side signals. So you can kind of play with it and work with it that way. And then it gives you the ability to independently take the sides in and out, or do them once all together. So for this, we'll work in just basic stereo and just kind of go through some of the sounds now that we've gone through this, and run it through a couple different testing. So let's just run it. What I do is I have a mix here, and then let's just drive a little bit of audio into it. Let's just kind of go through some of the basic settings and then get an idea of what it's like and what we can do with it. All right, so I'm going to drive. Let's just say it just quickly so you could hear when you do this. You're going to get a subtle characteristic difference. So if I make a choice there and I decide that I like the low, I'll just kind of start with that, and then I can kind of drive up accordingly. So this is with the original attack time. Maybe I'll do like a kind of basic limiter setting here. That clap instead of driving it a bit hard there. So here, what I could do here with the Chandler, I could slow that down a little bit. I can also get this to drive a little bit more from the kick drum by taking that sidechain filter out. So let's also do like something where maybe I want this to kind of pump and breathe a little bit more. So I'll slow down the attack time, maybe go to a quicker release time, and I'll see if we can get this to kind of pump a little bit with the audio. A little added gain here. So you get a little bit of the movement there. I can also, just to show you what the difference is, if I switch it to compressor 1, you notice there's a little bit less movement going on. The release maybe in this particular setting is a little bit more musical, so let me drive it a little bit more. So I'll step back from the guitar solo there for a second. So you could hear how like there's a different characteristic for sure sound between the comp 1 and the comp 2. In this particular case, that smooths out with the comp 1 the release time, where the comp 2 is a little bit more reactive, a little bit quicker on the recovery. And that may be something that's more in line if you wanted to just really overdrive something. So if I went back, let me just kind of pull back my output gain here, and let's just get into like a heavy limiting kind of thing here, where let's just get this to kind of pump and breathe. Oops. Now, and probably not suited for a whole mix, kind of the way that I have it set up here, but if I am just running in drums and, you know, getting that real breathing characteristic. And if I drive this even more, just go into pure punish mode. Or drive it to a slower attack. Allow some of the more aggressive stuff to come through. So that just allows more of the transient energy to kind of pump through and let the, let that really heavy breathing type of stuff happen afterwards. And that's really more emblematic of the way that the channel compressor of the TG12345 kind of reacts, where you get this really, really heavy sort of almost insane kind of limiting, because I don't believe that there's any kind of threshold on that. It's pretty much just compressing the full band. Full dynamic range all the time, and then you're just kind of driving what they call like a hold feature up to kind of balance it out. It's kind of an interesting concept for a compressor, but this captures a lot of that same type of character where you could really overdrive something. And just with that, this actually is it's an amazing emulation. It really gives you a lot of control. Like, you can use it for like mastering in a more subtle way. Great for mixes. Great for working with just like a drum crush type of thing on a parallel track. Just kind of hyper compressing rooms. That type of thing. You can really get some pretty insane, like heavy stuff. And then the distortion and the way you drive it also, you get a lot of character out of it that way by driving more signal into it the way that I've done here. I always hate leaving stuff like that. I always feel like that's going to be a disaster. But anyway, it's a really, really cool, amazing emulation. Nice addition to the UA collection. And their work in this particular case with Softube. Nice addition to the Curve Bender EQ, which they've already done from the Chandler Limited collection. So that is a plugin of the week. UA-Softube Chandler Limited, the Zener Limiter.